Not your average tabletop. Woohoo!
Welcome back to Not Your Average Tabletop. I'm Zach.
And I'm Mac.
And today for our Stone Timber video, we're going to be talking about the expansions we've played from Scythe. And as you can see on the table, there have been 3 of them. And then we also had the Encounters deck, which was a smaller box with just new encounters in it that are kind of wildly powerful and stuff, so that's an interesting one too. If you
shuffle those babies in,
right? If you want something just to spice up those encounters, I feel like that's a solid one to add as well. But these are kind of the bigger box expansions, so we'll kind of just talk through our thoughts of these, and probably not really review them. There's some that we've played with more than others. Anyway, this we have not played with the Wind Gambit too much, but we have probably some initial thoughts on them.
And are we gonna be spoiler free here?
We'll try to be spoiler free, but just know there may be minor spoilers with the Rise of Fenris. So we'll start with these 2, and then we'll go to the Rise of Fenris. So you can listen to the first 2, and if you don't want to have any chance of being spoiled, then you can leave after that and go check out one of our other videos.
Plug. Subscribe and like now.
Yes, but you can start off with the kind of the first one there.
Yeah, so this is the first expansion we got. Is this the first expansion he put out?
I'm trying to remember what order they came in. I think it was this, this, and then this.
It must be because they have the same boat color.
Yeah, that's true. Yep.
So the first one then is the Invaders from Afar, and this is the first one we got. And so this one essentially is adding 2 more factions to the game. That's really all it does. So they have 2 spaces on the board, at least the board we already had. And so when you get this expansion, you get the minis, the mechs, and then their corresponding, ability. They have some tiles that are specific to them. So there's a green faction, which is, I think, loosely Scotland, and that's called Albion. And then there is the purple faction, Tagawa Shogunate, I think it is. And so that one is the purple, and they kind of sit opposite sides of the boards. And very interesting about these 2 is they have their own little discs. For Albion, they're like these flag discs that when you lay them down, you're like claiming property or a hexagon or whatever it is, kind of a thing. And then for Tagawa, they have the same kind of discs, and those are essentially like trap discs though. So when you lay them down, if someone goes in them, they have some kind of negative effect or whatever. So kind of different than all the other factions where they have this other piece that you're working with as you use them. Right. And then it also is really neat because these 2 have a direct line to the factory. So they don't have to worry about going around water or anything. They literally have a landmass to the factory, which I think is really interesting. And we saw in a couple gameplays how powerful that could be for Tagawa, even though neither of us think these 2 are like super strong, but like it was specifically in those gameplays. So
yeah, and I wonder if it's because we're still probably not the greatest Scythe players, because I think when you look at like kind of the tier rankings by people that have probably played Scythe like hundreds of times, these 2 are always kind of on the lower end of things. I do think they're interesting and whatnot, but I think the thing that kind of brings them back a little bit because they can go without going over water is I don't think they have that speed mech, so they are never moving fast or as quickly. So I think that kind of slows them down a little bit. But no, it is interesting.
It's very much a pick your poison with the side factions.
Right, exactly. And yeah, I think it is interesting that they lay out their own tiles. And I think they count towards like ownership of those tiles as well, too.
Yes, they do.
If you have them out at the end of the game, which is another cool thing that you don't actually have to leave some of your people out there. You can leave those instead. But yeah, that's pretty much the main thing in that Scythe. Expansion. And I think you kind of knew they were coming because there were 2 extra spots on the original Scythe board. So I think it was kind of known that there was going to be more. It just was a matter of
I wasn't sure because we weren't on like the original Scythe train, so I wasn't sure if like we had gotten the Scythe after like this one had already come out, and so then the base board just already was coming with that, or if Jamie had planned from the get-go.
Yeah, I guess I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty confident that the original board had those, but I could be wrong on that, so let us know in the comments. Well, maybe I'm totally wrong on that, but yeah, this didn't come with a new board, so I
Yeah.
don't know that he would have replaced boards
True.
for.
Yeah, that's true.
So, but yeah, so maybe he knew that he wanted those. He just didn't have them quite as balanced or whatever originally.
See how
so.
I go before he makes another set of
Right.
12 mechs and
Right.
or 8 mechs, 10 mechs. I forget how many. 5? There's 5, 4 or 5.
4 in
Yeah.
each. But yeah, so if you like Scythe for what it is, that kind of just gives you 2 more options of factions to play, and
Yeah.
I think it might have also come with a couple more of the bottom
Yeah.
boards as well, so kind of
Yeah.
gives you a couple more of those to play with as well. So it's kind of more of the same,
Yeah.
which I feel like a lot of Stonemaier games, their first expansion is always seems to just be more of the
I was
same.
just gonna say, I've been starting to notice a pattern when we talk about expansions, because it seems like it's always like an authentic, doesn't hardly like mess with the game expansion, and I'm like, huh, I like this, and I don't know if he means for that to be a pattern or if that's like his like process to adding stuff, but
Yeah,
it's clever. It's very
Right.
clever.
and then usually the second one is the one that kind of
Shakes it up a
looks
bit.
like it's shaking things up a bit, and that would, I believe, it's the Wind Gambit. That's the second one. This one like I said, we haven't played with. I think more than once, maybe twice.
Yeah.
This one comes with airships, which I find really cool. If you've seen the cover of this one, I'm like, oh, that. The mechs are already pretty cool, so
Yeah.
what can an airship do for the game? I would say that's the main thing that's in this one, along with, I believe there's tiles as well, to kind of maybe change something for your end game trigger or another way to end the game. I think those are pretty cool as well, that you can change that up. But yeah, the ships, and the times we played with them, I was like, feel like these look and feel like they should be much more cool than they actually ended up being in our play.
Yeah, I feel like in the one play I had, I was kind of like, maybe I'm missing it because I was like, I just thought this would be way more powerful, because I'm like, it really, I don't exactly remember, but I just remember thinking like, I can do almost the same thing with my mech, and maybe it was just because of the faction I was playing, but I will say they are really cool though, because they come up, they're like these big ships,
They're huge,
and they come on these little stands, so they literally are floating above the board, which is, I think, so cool.
Yeah, they look really, really cool, and like I said, we've only played with them once, and maybe if we had more plays, maybe it is
and like
a way
you said,
you can
we are
move.
not the best side players,
Right,
so.
but yeah, it took some of your already what seems like limited movement, and you'd have to use that instead to move those around, which makes it even tougher, because like, oh, should I move that or not? So I could maybe see, because they can carry your workers, I believe, so sometimes they're all goods or a combination of the two.
Yes.
So I could see how maybe if you needed to get over the river to a resource, you can use these to get over
and I think
to
that's
that resource.
mainly what they were used for.
So, so I could see them being very useful, but I don't know. It just felt like this could, I don't know, maybe help more in the battles, and I think there's some that might help with that in certain situations, because I think when you have the ships, when you're playing with them, you're also playing with tiles that it's like a certain type of benefit it does, and another benefit that it does. And I don't remember if one is more focused on combat and one is more focused on kind of production and people. It's been a while since we played it. It's probably been about a year. But yeah, I think it looked cooler, and I was more excited for it than that initial play ended up being. But it definitely has some board presence.
Yeah.
And the tiles that can kind of change your end game trigger and stuff, I thought were pretty cool. And
nice to switch it up a little.
Yeah, I'd like to use it. I think we only used them that one game too, and I'd actually, if we get it back to the table, we haven't really played it too much since we went through the campaign of this.
We did
Rise of Fenris,
the 10 by 10 of Psy last year. So.
Right. So, maybe if we get it back to the table, we can check some of those out. Maybe look at the airships again, because I feel like Scythe is already a game that takes a little bit to set up. So if you're going to set it all up anyway, you can throw these in there. I don't think you could just not use it the whole time, and I don't think it's going to negatively affect you. So,
yeah. Agreed.
But so that was kind of those two. And maybe before we talk about Fenris, you could probably already tell, I guess, well, I should make sure you didn't have, I guess, different thoughts on this, or any additional thoughts?
No, but I think Scythe is hard for me to like say much about just because I'm not a great Scythe player at all. Like I love the game because of the puzzle and the way it makes you think, but I'm not good at it, and so for the Wind Gambit, it's just kind of like it's one more thing that I have to learn, and I'm already not that great at like the base game, so I'm kind of like, I mean, I can try and learn it, but I just know it's gonna be like, if I don't play it like regularly or like constantly with the Wind Gambit, I just know I'll just lose any knowledge that I had gained about how to play it. And so it's, to me, it's kind of like, if you're not a great Scythe player, it's just another thing to kind of remember and learn. But that being said, like Scythe in and of itself is a great game. So if you like Scythe, then I would say that the Wind Gambit is totally fine. And I don't mind learning it at all. It's just something I have to think about personally. So
yeah, and yeah, before we talk about this one, I would just say if you're looking for one to get out of these two, I would highly suggest this one. And I would say this one's a take or leave it. If you want to complete your whole Scythe set, could get this one, but I don't know that it's necessary. But I guess kind of a spoiler about what I think, I would actually probably say Rise of Fenris before the factions, though.
Really?
Well, I mean, if you're only going to get one. If you're not, if for some reason you are only going to get one at all, then I would pick the Rise of Fenris before the factions. But if you were going to get multiple anyway, then I'd get the factions first, then Fenris, just so you have a couple more options.
Yeah. So if you don't want any spoilers about Fenris, now is when you need to
go check out our other videos.
Get out of here.
But yeah, so Scythe, the Rise of Fenris.
Yeah, so this basically is a campaign expansion. So once you're done with a campaign, then you have parts and bits that will
some modules
that you can use in regular play. So
and we haven't actually done that too much, so that's kind of a thing we can't really talk about as much because I don't know. Kind of, I would assume it would be just as good as when it was in the campaign. Yeah.
Well, and I think that's the thing is like, so obviously it's called Rise of Fenris. So you're gonna get, over the course of the game, you're gonna get 2 new factions, and depending on who earns them, only certain people are going to get to play those factions. And so if you're not someone who earns those factions, then like you can play them later and after the fact, but it's kind of like, okay, what does this one do? Because it's not one of the originals that you're used to playing. So it is just learning a new faction, essentially. But they're very neat factions.
They are very neat, and they have very unique abilities. I think they're probably some of the... neither of us got a chance to play them right, but I feel like they'd both...
No, didn't you play Vesna?
Did I?
Was it Zachary?
I think it was just Zachary, but maybe I did.
And Carson was Fenris?
I think so. I could be remembering that wrong. But
you have a Vesna shirt.
I do. But I don't know that I actually played. But maybe I did. I don't remember.
I certainly did not.
It's been a little bit. But, yeah. That's what I'm trying to think, because I thought they would be... they seem like a little more complex to play as well. They're different from kind of... At least Vesna, kind of your setup initially is a lot different than everyone else. Yeah. Because you're using kind of different tiles to set up every game. So even the faction itself is playing differently from what you played previously. But yeah, those are, I think they're probably 2 of the coolest things from the game.
Yeah, easily. I mean... I'm scared to say it because I don't want to spoil it, but you should have left by now, so it's your own fault if you stuck around. But like the Fenris, or I guess it's like Rasputin or whatever, but the Fenris mechs are like 3 inches tall. So like
they're very large.
It is crazy. Like they're
just waiting to topple over.
They just come with but they don't have Wind Gambits, huh?
Huh?
They don't have Wind Gambit?
They do.
No, they did.
It
came
in the boxes.
That's right. I was like, what? Okay.
But yeah, so yeah, throughout the campaign, was it 8 games or 10 games?
It was, I think it was 8 because we ended up playing 2.
Because we put this on our 10x10 challenge last year because we knew
we had gotten
this. So we were going to play it probably 8 times already, so that we'd only have to play it 2 additional times, which if we played it 8 wouldn't be that difficult. But yeah, so you're just kind of going through game to game, each one kind of slightly different, and there's a little bit of a story behind it. I think that was nice because it wasn't too long, but it just it kind of gave a little flavor text to what was going on a little bit. I don't know that it totally 100% like came through all the time. It did just feel like Scythe. Just
there were
introducing
like
new
objectives,
things, but
I guess, too. But
right.
like, yeah.
And yeah, I think one of them too did like change the kind of what you had to do for stars and stuff.
Yeah.
I think that would be a cool thing to use in future games.
Yeah.
Because I think you can
like
kind of almost do whatever you want to do too. Because I think there were like individual ones that you can cover with. So that would be another cool thing to kind of change what people would be going for. But yeah, you could make it more peaceful or more war heavy if you really want to be battling a lot. But yeah, it had introduced a lot of small interesting things that I think
tokens and benefits and mech ability changes and there's some, what was it, one of the ones you kind of could ally yourself with another to gain some of their abilities or something, and, which was pretty cool. Was that only used in 1 or 2 games? Yeah, because I think I had made alliances, but it didn't pan out.
Right. But I think you got coins for doing that or something at the end of the game, which is cool, too.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would highly recommend playing this one if you like Scythe. Obviously, if you've made it this far, you know all the spoilers now. So, but that's why I said originally that if you only got one, I would probably prefer this one, just because it's going to give you the two new ones along with a little bit more of a story and a couple other things that can be changed up, whereas that just gives you 2 new factions. Which is still good, but... And
you might wonder, like, and if you made it this far, you probably do know, but, like, Vesna and Fenris can be placed on any of the faction boards that aren't in use, so, which kind of, you could automatically place them in then either the Shogunate or the Albion spaces, too, if you don't end up getting invaders from the far. So...
But, yeah, I think it's a very solid expansion.
Yeah, it was a good campaign.
I guess, would you do it again? Would you do it a second time?
I don't know. I lost every single game we played. Like, handily lost. So that probably doesn't help. But it's not like playing Scythe. I mean, you are playing Scythe, but at the same time, like I said, you've got goals and, like, things you need to do, and most of the time, I think in, like, the first couple, it was, like, get to the factory, or, like, be the first one to the factory. And we had, like, Zach, who had a direct connection to the factory, playing Tagawa, and it was just, like, every time. But then, I mean, we still had a winner and a loser of the actual game, I think.
Right.
But,
and you got to take your coins from game to game, and buy some upgrades as well. So those upgrades were cool as well. Kind of upgraded your mechs or upgraded your... what was the other thing it upgraded? It wasn't your workers, right? I can't remember it. There were 2 upgrades. Mechs and something else.
Oh.
Totally blanking.
Was it...
was it just actions, I think?
Yeah.
So yeah, if you did certain things, you got a bonus, I think.
And then,
or it was cheaper to pay, it was cheaper to take
and
those
there was just
actions.
those 1 tokens where it was like, you drew them randomly, and it was like, anytime you do this, or... It's like that. Non-mech ability, but it was like those little hexagons that sat by your board.
But
yeah,
and this one can be played 1 to 7, up to 7 players.
Is there a recharge back?
No, I would think you could just kind of, if you had all the boxes and stuff, you could put it all back together if you wanted, and do it again if you want.
With new people, and then when you unbox the Fenris,
I am very shocked.
Wow, who would have thought that was a 3-inch mech?
Right, that was pretty surprising.
Which is funny.
I think originally it was in the factory, like you said, and it was just a big box sitting there in the middle.
Because it's like we didn't even bother to look at the box. Like, it's literally littered with those mechs, like all over. And then, like, you can see, where are they? Vesna and Fenris or Rasputin right here. So it's, it's just like, really didn't pay close attention to that. I mean, look at the blue and the orange on the front of the box indicate,
Right. Woo! But I guess, that doesn't really tell you that there will be new ones, but
Nah.
you could have guessed.
But looking
if you
back
were,
at it, yeah.
You know, but
It's very telling.
yeah, those are the 3 Scythe expansions that we've played. Now we now have all of the stuff in the big box.
Yes.
So I would recommend
We
a big
went
box with
hardcore.
an
We got big box, got the
insert.
expansions, and-
You know, I would highly recommend that. We haven't, like I said, we haven't played too much since
Yeah.
that, but I'm hoping that'll make the setup just maybe a tiny bit faster.
I know, we should have gotten
is a
it
bit-
when we did the Fenris campaign.
Right, because yeah, that would be the only thing is some of it takes just some extra time, just in general, to set up and put back away. But
Should be much better now that we have the broken token. So.
yeah, but yeah, if you've made it this far, like the video, give us a thumbs up. If you want to check out more of our Scythe content or our other stone timber content, check out our other videos. But otherwise, we hope to see you on the next videos. And as always, don't forget to keep on nibbling on our content.